If you grew up watching the Rockford Files, you know the sound before you even see it. That deep growl of a Pontiac Firebird engine rolling down the California coast. Jim Rockford's gold Firebird wasn't just a car. It was a co-star, a symbol of cool confidence, and sometimes pure chaos on four wheels. But behind that iconic image was a world of bizarre stories, strange coincidences, and unplanned miracles that turned a TV prop into a legend. Most fans remember the Rockford turn, that smooth reverse 180 move that became the character's calling card. But what if I told you that maneuver almost never made it into the show? What if I told you that one of the Firebirds actually smelled like fish? Another was accidentally stolen, and yet another is still buried somewhere in the desert to this very day. This isn't just a car story. It's a story about how chaos and charm collided to create TV history. Every scratch, every chase, every improvised stunt hides a secret. And behind it all was James Garner, a man who wasn't a trained stunt driver, but somehow outdrove most professionals in Hollywood. In this video, we're taking a deep dive into the 20 weirdest facts about Jim's Pontiac Firebirds. From washing machine parts welded into the wheels, to license plates with coded messages, to the mystery of a missing car that reappeared months later. Under studio lights, each fact will make you see this car and this show in a whole new light. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't just behind-the-scenes trivia. It's a story of risk improvisation and one man's impossible bond with a machine that became part of who he was. Welcome to 20 Weird Facts You Didn't Know About Jim's Pontiac Firebirds. 20. The famous J-turn. That was never supposed to happen. Every Rockford Files fan knows that moment Jim Rockford slams his Firebird into reverse, spins it in a perfect 180, and speeds off like a pro. But here's the twist: that legendary Rockford turn wasn't scripted, planned, or approved by anyone. James Garner just made it up. Between takes during the first season, he was simply fooling around, testing how far the car could go in reverse. Producers freaked out, calling it an insurance nightmare. But Garner didn't stop. He practiced until he could pull it off flawlessly. Eventually, they gave in, and what started as a bit of boredom became one of TV's most iconic driving moves. Even the California Highway Patrol called to complain, worried it would inspire copycats. But it was too late. The Rockford turn had become legend, even taught in stunt schools under that name. 19. The wrong gold. That no one noticed. Everyone remembers the Firebird's color, Aztec gold. But for the pilot episode, someone used the wrong paint, Sierra gold. The difference was subtle. Sierra had a champagne shimmer, while Aztec leaned more bronze. No one caught it until filming wrapped. Producers panicked, afraid fans would revolt. But nobody noticed, not even Garner himself. Years later, when a fan pointed it out to him, he just laughed and said, "They were all gold to me." 18. The badge that refused to stay. On the Firebird wasn't a Trans Am, as many assume. It was the more refined Esprit model, a classier, smoother ride for a private eye who liked comfort. But those Esprit badges were a nightmare. They kept falling off mid-chase, sometimes flying straight into camera cars. The crew tried glue screws, even welding nothing worked. Eventually, they kept spare badges in the truck, slapping new ones on between takes. It became a running joke on set. How long will the badge last this time? 17. License plates with hidden messages. Rockford's plate read 853 OKG. Looks random, not even close. 853 was James Garner's agent's office address on Sunset Boulevard. OKG came from 3 crewmen, Owen, Kelly, and Gus, who'd won a poker game against the producers. Their prize, immortality on a license plate. Later seasons even swapped it briefly to 853 NMF, which stood for No More Firebirds. A joke from the exhausted transport crew. The producers didn't find it as funny. 16. The tree that kept winning. On Universal's backlot stood one stubborn old tree, a prop survivor since the 1930s. Rockford's Firebird hit that exact same tree at least 7 times. Different episodes, different stunt drivers, same result. The studio refused to remove it for historical value, even after painting it orange and posting warning signs. Garner himself once walked up to it after a rehearsal, crash-patted the bark, and said, "So you're the one. That tree's still there today. Scars and all, a silent co-star in Rockford's wildest rides." 15. The Firebird that smelled like fish. Of all the problems a Hollywood car could have, this one takes the prize. The hero Firebird, the one used for close-ups and dialogue scenes, smelled horrible. Not like oil or burnt rubber, but fish. The crew cleaned it, detailed it, even replaced the entire interior, but the smell kept coming back. Finally, they discovered the truth before joining. The Rockford Files, the car had been used in a seafood commercial. The trunk was filled with real fish for the shoot, and under the California sun, the juices soaked deep into the metal. There was no fixing it. Garner refused to film in that car with the windows up, so they used a second Firebird for interior shots. The crew called the smelly one the tuna boat. Nobody wanted to drive it, and when they finally retired, even collectors wouldn't touch it. 14. The stolen car. They bought by mistake. During Season 4, production needed a replacement car quickly after a stunt wreck. They found a perfect one listed in the classifieds, great price, great shape. Too great, actually. 2 weeks later, the police showed up. The car had been stolen from a Nevada dealership months earlier. The VIN was fake, the paperwork forged, and the studio had unknowingly bought hot property. They lost both the car and the money, though the crew saw the irony. They'd already filmed it in a police chase. From then on, the transport team bought only from official dealers, but the Check Nevada jokes never stopped. 13. The gas mileage plot hole. Rockford's Esprit Firebird looked slick, but it guzzled gas like a tank. 12 miles per gallon on a good day. Yet the show constantly portrayed Jim as broke scraping by on 200 cases, while somehow driving hundreds of miles each episode. The math didn't add up. Writers once tried a scene showing him siphoning gas, but network standards killed it. Another version had him complain about Price's audiences found it boring. So they dropped the topic entirely, leaving fans to imagine how a broke PI could afford to cruise California in a V8. Some even theorized he had a secret deal with a local gas station owner, free fuel for favors. 12. The spare tire's hidden compartment. The hero Firebird's trunk wasn't ordinary. The prop team had modified the spare tire well into a secret compartment, spring-loaded, hidden, and meant to store Rockford's gun or cash stash. But the feature was never shown on screen. Garner hated it. Too fiddly, always jammed, and he kept forgetting how to open it. So the expensive prop went unused. Years later, when the car was restored, the new owner found the compartment still intact, with 23 and a note inside reading Jim's emergency fund. Do not remove. 11. The Firebird left behind in Mexico. During Season 5, the crew filmed near the Mexican border with 3 cars, the hero and 2 stunt Firebirds. On the way back, one broke down in the desert. Pressed for time, the transport chief said, "Leave it. We'll come back." They didn't. 2 weeks later, the Mexican police had impounded it for abandonment. The studio paid huge fines and towing fees to get it back, but when they did, it had been mysteriously repaired, repainted, even detailed. Nobody ever discovered who fixed it. They called it the Mexican Miracle. 10. James Garner's personal Firebird wasn't gold. After the first season's success, Pontiac gifted James Garner his own Firebird as a thank you for making the car a TV icon. Everyone assumed it would be gold, the same Aztec gold that gleamed across America's TV screens. But Garner said no. He'd spend all day surrounded by gold Firebirds and was tired of the color. Instead, he chose Brewster green, a deep forest hue that looked almost black under certain light. Pontiac custom built it, loaded with every luxury option. Garner adored it, but fans were confused when they saw him driving a wrong car. He'd be chased down by people yelling, "Hey, Rockford, you change cars." He'd pull over, show them the registration, and laugh. "Nope, this one's mine." 9. The stunt cars. Had washing machine parts. Here's one you won't believe. The Firebirds' famous chase slides were powered by washing machine drums. Stunt coordinators needed the cars to drift just right. Too much traction ruined the look. So one driver, who also repaired appliances, had an idea. He welded stainless steel rings cut from washing machine drums around the tires. The metal was slick enough to let the cars slide beautifully, while still staying under control. It worked so well that the team went through dozens of old washers. Soon every stunt department in Hollywood wanted in, and for a short while, there was an actual washing machine drum shortage in Los Angeles. 8. The Firebird that raced against itself. In one Season 4 episode, Rockford's Firebird races another gold Firebird in a high-speed chase. But here's the secret. They only had one car available that day. Both stunt cars were out of commission, so they filmed the same car twice, once as Rockford's and once as the villain's. Then the editor worked magic flip shots, different angles, quick cuts. If you pause the right frames, both cars have the same dent and license plate. It was movie trickery at its finest, and the editor nearly got an Emmy that year. Though not for this stunt, he absolutely deserved it. 7. The horn played the wrong note. The Firebird's horn was supposed to sound an F sharp, just like Pontiac designed it. But the show car's horn played a G slightly higher. A sound engineer with perfect pitch couldn't stand it. He begged them to fix it, and they tried 3 new horns. Later, it still sounded wrong. Turns out a bent mounting bracket had changed the resonance. Fixing it would mean redesigning the car's front end, so they left it. The sound engineer quit soon after, muttering, "I can't take that G anymore." Years later, when fans told Garner about the horn, he blinked and said, "It had a horn." 6. The Firebird that delivered pizza. Of all the Firebirds to survive the series, one took a very strange second life. A stunt car sold at auction ended up in Ohio, where its new owner opened a pizza shop. He repainted the car, kept it gold, and used it as a delivery vehicle. Locals loved it. People ordered pizza just to see the Rockford Firebird pull up at their door. Business exploded. When James Garner heard the story during a trip to Columbus, he showed up at the restaurant, ordered a large pepperoni, and asked to make the delivery himself. He drove that car for 3 deliveries that night, smiling the whole way, as cameras rolled and the town went wild. To this day, the car still exists, retired, but available for special deliveries. 5. The radio powered by a lawnmower battery. Filming inside Rockford's Firebird was a technical nightmare. Cameras, lights, and microphones all drained the car's main battery within minutes. So the crew came up with a bizarre fix. They installed a second battery behind the dashboard. Not a car battery, a lawnmower battery. It powered only the radio and interior lights, keeping the car alive long enough for scenes to play out. The system worked until it didn't. The small batteries overheated, leaked sulfur, and smelled like rotten eggs. They went through one almost every week. Hardware stores thought the crew was running a landscaping company with all those orders. In one episode, you can even spot it. Rockford opens the hood during a breakdown scene, and if you look closely, you'll see that tiny lawnmower battery still sitting there. Fans later wrote letters asking about it, and the writers cheekily explained that Rocky Jim's dad must have installed it himself. 4. The Firebird buried in the desert. During location shooting in California's Mojave Desert, disaster struck. A flash flood came out of nowhere, swallowing one of the stunt cars. The Firebird was parked in what looked like a dry riverbed, until it wasn't. Within minutes, it was buried in thick mud up to its windows. Digging it out would have cost more than the car itself, so the studio filed an insurance claim and left it behind. 2 decades later, hikers found it bleached white, half buried, and eerily preserved. Photos surfaced online, sparking a frenzy among Rockford Files fans. Collectors try to locate it again, but the desert keeps its secrets. Somewhere under all that sand, one lost Firebird still waits. 3. The engine that was all wrong. For car enthusiasts, this one still stings. The Firebird Esprit driven by Rockford should have packed a 400 cubic inch V8, the big booming heart of a muscle car. But most of the show's cars ran smaller 350 engines. Why? Because the real 400 models were harder to find in the right color, and production deadlines couldn't wait. It took until season 3 before the crew finally swapped in a genuine 400, restoring that deep rumbling tone fans had missed. Garner, who truly loved cars, noticed immediately. He reportedly grinned after the first take and said, "Now that's Rockford's car." 2. The Firebird. That disappeared for 6 months. Between seasons 2 and 3. Universal Studios did an inventory check and found a Firebird missing. Not stolen, not wrecked, just gone. For half a year, nobody knew where it was. Then a janitor discovered it in an unused storage building on the lot covered with tarps, surrounded by lights and old cameras, as if someone had been secretly filming it. No permits, no records, no explanation. Everything was left behind, even the keys in the ignition. They cleaned it up and put it back into use, but the mystery was never solved. Some crew members joked that the Firebird had decided to take a hiatus. Others believed someone was shooting the secret project, then fled when caught. Whatever happened, it remains one of the strangest studio stories in Hollywood car lore. 1. James Garner tried to buy them all. When the Rockford Files wrapped in 1980, most of the Firebirds were destined for auction, just another set of studio assets to be sold off. But for James Garner, they weren't props. They were family. He had spent 6 years behind those steering wheels dodging stunt explosions, doing his own spins, joking with mechanics between takes. So when Universal announced the sale, Garner made an offer. He wanted to buy every single Firebird used on the show. His plan was heartfelt and simple. He wanted to gift them to the crew members who had kept those cars alive, through breakdowns, rebuilds, and disasters. To him, those men and women deserved a piece of the show's legacy. Universal said no. They wanted to auction them publicly for more profit. Garner offered to match the prices, even overpay, but the studio refused. He was furious, calling it a slap in the face to the people who made the show possible. In the end, he managed to buy 2, the main hero car and his favorite stunt car. But he never gave up. Over the next 3 decades, every time one of the original Firebirds surfaced in a private sale or a car show, Garner quietly tried to buy it back. Not for himself, for the same purpose he'd dreamed of years earlier. Whenever he found a car, he'd track down one of the original crew, knock on their door, and hand them the keys with a note that simply read, "From Jim. Thanks for keeping her running." By the time James Garner passed away in 2014, he'd managed to find and gift 6 of the original Firebirds. To this day, somewhere in America, a few old mechanics still drive to the grocery store in what was once television's most famous PI car, because their boss never forgot them. So there you have it, 20 strange, funny, and heartfelt truths about Jim Rockford's Pontiac Firebirds. A collection of cars that somehow became more than metal and rubber. They became part of television history. From the J-turn that was born out of boredom, to the Firebird buried in the desert from washing machine stunt parts, to a pizza delivery legend, every single story tells us something about how the Rockford Files was made with heart, with improvisation, and with a crew who loved what they were doing, even when nothing made sense. James Garner didn't just drive those cars, he lived them. He broke studio rules, rewrote what TV driving could look like, and gave audiences a hero who was imperfect, broken human, just trying to get through another day behind the wheel of a gold Firebird that wasn't always gold. That's what made the show timeless. It wasn't the car alone, or the chases, or even the witty one-liners. It was the connection between man and machine, between story and soul. That quiet spark that made the Firebird more than a vehicle. It was a mirror for Rockford himself, dented, stubborn, unkillable. And maybe that's why even today, if you catch a glimpse of a 1970s Firebird in the sunlight, You can't help but think of that gruff voice, that sly smile, and that spinning J-turn that defied every rule in Hollywood. Because somewhere deep in its chrome and gasoline, there's still a bit of James Garner's spirit, the kind that refused to quit even when the odds were stacked against him. So the next time you hear the roar of a V8 in the distance, remember, it might just be another Firebird with a story left to tell.